Good morning, everyone. It is day 19, and we've been doing a lot in our challenge on how to get motivated to set your goals and be ready for the new year to come. But we also, just as important it is to get motivated, we also need to look at what's getting in our way of having what we want and what we desire. And the thing that's getting in our way is self-sabotage. Yes, we all do it at some time or another, sometimes more than we want. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, to eliminate self-sabotage. Good morning, Bethay and Eileen and Joyce and everyone who's coming on this early morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you for those of you who also see it later. I'm getting a lot of messages of people who didn't formally get on the challenge but are looking back at all the videos because they want to catch up, and they're getting some good things out of there. And if you haven't posted yet, I put a separate post. I want to ask you please to be so kind and write down your highlights of what you've learned. It's going to help you process because a lot has happened in these 21 days, and it's also going to help me know what was most helpful for you. So thank you for putting that under that post where I ask you to write your highlights. Thank you. So we do things to unconsciously sabotage. When we perceive something as difficult or challenging, we just push it away and find other ways not to do it. Good morning, Ingrid. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you the 4 most common ways you sabotage. And if you'd like to share, yep, I can relate to that one because I certainly can relate to some of those as well. Just post that. Yep, this is my most common one. And if you don't hear yours, write yours in anyway. So, because again, it's so important to share because so many people feel when they're sharing, oh, it's so good that I'm not feeling alone. I can relate to that. Or you might put something that people start thinking, yeah, this is something I need to think about. I hadn't thought about it. And if you can send me some likes and hearts to get the morning going and get the energy going, I really appreciate it. So here are the 4 most common ways we sabotage. Again, there's tons more. Thank you for those hearts and likes. And here they are. And you can post it as you relate to it. The first one is you self-criticize a lot. And self-criticism can show up as, literally putting yourself down. Oh, that was so stupid. A lot of people say that. They make a mistake. That's so stupid. When I have a client who says that, I immediately say, stop. You're not stupid. And that is a real negative thing to really cut yourself down. Or it might be things like, comparison stuff like we've talked about, like, oh, they do it better, or they're bigger, or, I'm not enough in some way. Or it can also be minimizing, where you minimize yourself and somebody compliments you and you say, oh, it wasn't such a big deal. I've done that before. Those are examples of self-criticism. Number 2, sabotage, is you pick arguments. This would be a lot with relationships. So you find yourself with someone, whether it's your children or your partner, and you are getting irritable very quickly and picking at things. That's a sabotage. Number 3, and this is a big one, it is the big P word, procrastination. We've all done it. I do it. I do it with doing my taxes, cleaning out stuff, organizing. I love organizing, but I can avoid it. And I can avoid it and come up with lots of ways to not follow through, not finish. Anybody relate with procrastination? That's a big one. I'm getting a yes. Not sure what you're yesing, Joyce, but you're obviously relating to one of the ones we're talking about. And number 4, sabotage, is self-medication. We self-medicate with food, with alcohol, and that's a sabotage of things that we don't want to feel, right? So Rhonda says, I'm a skillful procrastinator. I know, we can get really good at it, right? All right, so start being aware as you're going, oh, there it is, I'm sabotaging. Again, not to put yourself down, but just to have the awareness and the consciousness. Awareness and consciousness brings you halfway there to change negative habits, but we have to be aware. All right, so sabotage comes from one main reason. The main reason that we all sabotage is we associate more pain to following through with it than pleasure. I'm going to say that again. The big reason we all sabotage is we associate more pain to following through with whatever we want. Ingrid says, oh my God, I do all of them. That was honest. It's so true. We do a lot of sabotage, and our job is to release as much as possible so that we can get what we want in life. So here's an example of how we can associate pain and stop us from what we want in life. Imagine you start to lose weight. You're doing all the right things. You're eating healthy. Then you go out and you meet your friends who are not losing weight. They need to lose weight, but they're not. And they're ordering all kinds of foods and high-fat foods and carbs and drinking. And you're sitting there with your plate of vegetables. Suddenly you look around and maybe some of them are going, why aren't you ordering with us and have a drink and eat this and have an appetizer? And you find them buzzing and talking, and suddenly you feel like you don't belong. If that feeling gets really big, you will sabotage yourself to belong and start eating those kind of foods. That would be an example. Another example, you start making a lot more money. You wanted to be financially free, here it is, and then you start saying things to yourself, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of work to keep it up, or I don't know how to keep this success going. If those thoughts get bigger, you're going to start to see your money going in a roller coaster. So those are examples. So to take your control back and to stop sabotage, what you have to do is change the association with what you do. In other words, you have to move it from pain to the pleasure that you're going to get by doing it instead of seeing just the pain. So an example is, one of the things that I consistently procrastinate is cleaning closets or even washing my dishes. I know I can sound like a slob, don't I? I love clean, but it can be painful because I associate pain. So with a closet, here's what I do. I look at the closet, I'm looking at one right now, and I look at it and I say, oh my God, there's too much to do. I don't even know where to start. It's going to take hours. Do you see what I'm saying to myself? It's all pain. So of course I don't organize it. But the moment I turn it around and I associate pleasure, and here's an example. I'll say, okay, this feels like a big project. I'm going to break it down in chunks, and I'm going to do 20 minutes. I don't have to do 3 hours. Already I'm feeling better. And then as I do it, I notice how things get clear, and I associate, ooh, it's feeling clear, the space is open. And then I start visualizing how it's going to look when everything's in order. And I feel like I can breathe better. Oh, I can get to things easier. My whole system feels so much more peaceful. That's a lot of pleasure. And when I hold that pleasure, I move towards cleaning the closet. Does that make sense? All right. But what happens is, so the other thing I want to tell you is about sabotage, that sabotage also has a positive intent. For example, back to the eating example, if you overeat or binge eat, it's not that you want to make yourself fat. Your intent is to get rid of the feelings with the food. So for that moment when I'm eating that food, I feel more comfortable, I feel at peace for that moment. That's the positive intent of overeating. And we do the same thing with watching too much TV. It has a positive intent. And your brain is always trying to help you avoid pain or gain pleasure. That's the two things that I learned a long time ago from Tony Robbins. He explained that so well. But when the brain is confused, it will, and the confusion is, will this bring me pain or pleasure? It drops everything. So here's an example. Let's say you're in a relationship, a new one, and everything's going great. You're in love and you're happy and you're on a high. But then your brain starts to remember the times you were in a relationship and it didn't work out, or you were dumped or rejected. The moment you start to feel that pain and the fear sets in, you stop everything. So, and you'll do it by sabotage. You'll do it by maybe pushing away your partner, you get irritated at them, you're doing something to start sabotaging because the brain is starting to feel that confusion with pain and pleasure. So, how do we end it? That is the purpose of today, how to eliminate sabotage. There are many ways to do it. I'm going to give you a 4-step process right now if you want to write it down. And of course, you can come back to this video and write down the steps. It's really a powerful process. I kind of alluded to it already, and I'm going to give it to you now. Step number 1 to eliminate sabotage is to identify the behavior that keeps you from getting to your goal. So let's use an example of you want to ask somebody out. And the behavior that you do is you want it, but you don't do it because you're afraid. So you don't do it, that's your sabotage behavior. Number 2, in the process, you ask yourself, what's the positive intent of me not doing this? The positive intent, can you guess, is avoiding rejection. That's the positive intent. Number 3, to make the change and move out of this, you want to teach your brain to really associate all the pain and the cost it's going to cost you if you don't do this. And you start to list it. I write it down. Okay, what's this pain costing me? What is this not asking this person out costing me? And you might write, my potential for a new relationship. It's costing my ability to feel love again, to have joy with companionship, and you write all the pain that it's costing you. It's hurting my self-confidence because every time I don't do it, I knock myself down and see, I'm a loser. So you're writing down all that pain. You're stacking it. And then number 4, actually there are 5 steps. I said 4. There are 5 steps. Number 5 is then you link all the pleasure that you would get if you did ask that person out on a date. Well, the pleasure is it's a possible potential new great relationship. I could feel love again. I can have companionship, somebody that I can connect with and do things with and grow together with. And you start stacking all that pleasure, your excitement builds, and you starting to move towards the goal rather than away. Does that make sense? And number 5, we got the 5 steps, sorry, I confused you, is you visualize it. Visualize really brings it into every part of your being. So you close your eyes and you visualize yourself asking that person out on a date, and you see yourself being positive and bold. You can even be outrageous with it and just connect with the wonderful feelings that you'll have by doing this and the end result. That is the 5-part process that works so beautifully, and it's so simple to start eliminating sabotage in your life. That's the 5 steps. So I'll give you an example of something I did connected to business, starting with step number 1. The behavior at the time that I had was about networking. The behavior was I needed to network to start getting clients, but I didn't go to networking, or I avoided them. I put it on the calendar and I wouldn't go. I'd find excuses. That was the behavior. Number 2, what was my positive intention to avoid networking? Well, it was to avoid feeling uncomfortable in that case. I felt low self-confidence at the time. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to be in a group. So it made me feel comfortable, positive intent. I don't have to deal with the conversation and being out there. I had a lot of negative associations with going to networking at the time. So to make the change, step 3, I listed the pain and the cost to me for not going. And those pains were, I'm not meeting potential clients. I could be going there and I'm not getting referrals. I'm not allowing myself to connect with the world and I'm hiding. So I'm writing all this that's causing me pain. It's stopping me from having the business that I want and increasing my income. It just went on and on. I went to step number 4 and I stacked all the pleasure that I would get if I started networking. I could meet referrals. I could give other people connections. I can make great connections and friendships. I could possibly get new clients. You never know what happens when you go. You find out about other opportunities, and the pleasure started stacking. And then number 5, I started visualizing myself going into the meeting, stepping into that bold, confident self that I wanted to step into, and letting myself speak with ease and from the warmth of my heart, and to make it easy. And that's exactly what I did, by the way. Every time I go into a networking meeting, I visualize that my higher self, and it started getting easier and easier. And of course, I made connections and started getting more clients and so on. So it's a very, very powerful process to help you eliminate sabotage in any part of your life. How many of you like that? Do you think that's helpful? Give me a yes in the post. So I encourage you to go back to the 5 steps and write them down and use them. I got some likes. Thank you. I know it's helped me a lot. So I saw a quote from an author, Maureen Brady. Lisa Eileen says yes. Yes, it was helpful. Good. Thank you. Maureen Brady is an author of Beyond Survival, and here's her quote that I thought was really cool. Sometimes we self-sabotage just when things seem to be going smoothly. Perhaps this is a way to express our fear about whether it is okay for us to have a better life. We are bound to feel anxious as we leave behind the old notion of unworthiness. The challenge is not to be fearless, but to develop strategies of acknowledging our fears and finding out how we can allay them. And this is one technique to start allaying your fears so you can move forward towards your goals. So there it is. We have 2 days left to the challenge, my friends. So keep coming back and sharing. Please post inside the Facebook under that post that I put what have been your highlights of the challenge so far. Remember to get out of your way, let sabotage go, and as you let sabotage go, in its place are endless opportunities for growth and success. I have a question here from Joyce. What is the difference between being humble and minimizing? Ooh, that's a good question. So when you're minimizing, you're really saying, I'm not good enough. When you're being humble, I have to think about this. And minimizing is also discounting. That's what it is. When you're minimizing, you're discounting good things. And what happens is people with low self-confidence discount small things. When you allow in and somebody says something good, even if you've done it 10 times before and you allow it in, you're saying, yes, I'm allowing in the good. Even if I did this 100 times before, I'm recognizing that. So if you're little Billy, you had a child and he told you 10 times, Mom, do you like my drawing? You wouldn't minimize it and go, well, you've done it before, You did the drawing yesterday. It was good then. Why do you need to know now? You wouldn't say that to Billy. You go, yeah, I love that you draw. I love that. Why wouldn't you do that for yourself? So humble is you can still accept the positive, but you don't, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of that one. I have to really think about that one. Humble is, the way I see humble is you are accepting what they say, but you're not minimizing. You're not putting it down or discounting it. So you can say thank you. I guess, you know what that reminds me of? A lot of people will say, well, if I really want something, isn't that selfish? What's the difference between asking for something and feeling selfish? I think it's the attachment you put to it. If you're humble and you can still feel good about it, that's great. But the minute you start minimizing it, you're discounting who you are. I hope that answered the question. That was a little tricky one for me to think about. Bethay says, thank you for your wonderful suggestions of how to improve and move forward in life. You're so welcome. And so with that, My friends, I will see you tomorrow, which is day 20. And it's a really good one. I started writing it and I got on this rampage inspiration. I know I get inspired in a lot of these, but this one really hit me to the core, and I think it's going to hit you to the core. So stay tuned for day 20 tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.